We're back. I don't know if you guys can hear us in Manchester.
Adrian, can you hear me? Switch me on.
Can you hear us in Nairobi?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
We're going to go around and ask everybody to say who they are. I am Casper.
Thank you, Casper. Hi, everyone in Manchester. Hi.
Hey. Hi.
Hi, my name is George. I'm an IT consultant, but today I'll be facilitating.
Hello. I'm Emma.
Hello, everyone. I am amazing Adam.
I'm Halim Moravage. I'm a senior lecturer in nutrition and sustainable food.
Hi, everyone. I am Mighty Mike.
Hi, I'm Malcolm. I'm with Design Manchester.
Hi, Manchester again. I am Avelas Mariam.
So I'm just going to give a bit of an introduction to the topic. So when we produce food, then we've got cutting down trees to make land, to make space for agriculture. And then we've got growing the crops. We've got fertilizer on the crops. We've got growing the animals. We've got methane from burps and farts from animals. And then we've got processing, manufacturing, transport, packaging, cooking, and then also waste, the food waste going to landfill sites, going to rubbish dumps.
Okay, let me just explain to them.
Yep.
Venye tunasema sasa ile ni process ile venye chakula inatengenezangwa, si ndio? So kutoka pale tuko na shamba, si ndio? Kwanza tunaanza tunakata miti.
Okay, so then if we add all of those things up, then food contributes 1/4 of all climate change. So many people are surprised that food contributes a large amount to climate change, but also most of the green part of this is actually fossil fuels. So if we stop burning fossil fuels, food will be the biggest cause of climate change. On average, in the world, each person causes about 6 kilograms of greenhouse gases from the food they eat every day. So 6 kilograms, I can just about lift 6 kilograms, but that's quite a lot of climate change from one day, from one person. It's different for different countries. It would be very interesting to learn how different the climate change from food in Nairobi is compared to in Manchester. I hope we can discuss that.
I want to introduce Mighty Mwea to take over from now. So thank you. Mike, welcome.
You're welcome to sit. You're welcome to sit.
So what I would ask one member of support team from Manchester is to use the whiteboard or the chart and draw a river, just a simple illustration of a river. And that's what you are going to be using for today's activity. So we just have the source of the river, which is the mountains, and then down, meandering through the valleys and into the sea. So the importance of a river is because human beings revolve around a river. It's only that we don't know. Our food comes from the river or the water in that aspect. And if you study the river from its origin, it gives you the past to the present situation, all right, of the things that we do.
Yeah, so basically what we're saying is, well, we used to have, say, the red plums, we used to have the pears, we used to have the guavas, we used to have the thorn melons, which now you'll have to either go and buy them in a supermarket or like go to a certain region and get them.
Mariana?
Okay, here in Kenya, we can say that we can't access clean water. Like we access it twice a week. That is Tuesdays and Thursdays. The other days, when we fetch tap water, it is either smelly or it has mud and dust. They used to fetch that water, use it to cook. They used to drink it, but now it is polluted.
In recent years, in recent decades, there's been a huge idea that drinking bottled water is healthier. But in actual fact, the reverse is true. The tap water is heavily regulated in this country. So it's always tested, and that water has to be as pure as it can be. And it's the best quality water you can drink, whereas there's absolutely no regulation for the bottled waters. So there could be anything in them. The idea is that bottled water is healthier, and it's completely untrue. And it's also the worst thing for the planet. When you buy bottled water, you don't buy water, you buy the bottle.
Takeouts from the Manchester side is really an awareness of the value and the cost of water and how can we as a community use less, and just the awareness of the gift of water. I'm really surprised that somebody can use as much water as they want, fill a pool and do all that. Here we pay practically for every liter we get. And I think that the other reality, which is the bigger one, is how do we continue to collaborate, kushirikiana globally, so that then each side becomes fuel for the other side to keep to their task. So the knowledge of how expensive water is here inspires somebody in Manchester to be more careful with their water. And the knowledge of how well the water is treated in Manchester inspires us to be more creative and thoughtful on this end to how we can treat our water.
I'm really, really pleased that we have with us Simona Grassi, who's actually beaming into us from Dublin, I think.
Yes, we can see it fine.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for inviting me for this chat. So as you can see in this graph, the lighter red color is the lowest meat consumption in the world, and then the reddest color is the heaviest. So as you can see, places like the US, for example, is very dark red, and the most places in Africa, for example, are very light red. These are some stats, not very recent, but 2013 is not too bad. You can see US, Australia, New Zealand, Argentina, they consume something like over 100 kilo of meat per person. That's like about 50 chickens or half a cow each person. In Europe, we're a little bit on the high side as well. We do between 80 and 90 kilos of meat per person. But then, as I said, in some places in Africa, for example, Ethiopia is just 7 kilo. Rwanda, Nigeria, 8 or 9 kilo. So that's like almost 10 times less than the average European. So that's just to show you. I will start talking now about future foods, and these are described as foods that we can produce in considerable volume, and we can do now this thanks to technological developments, and these can now be scaled up really, and the production costs are starting to go down. And I'm basing these slides on a particular paper that I'm happy to share. But basically, these authors were considering terrestrial foods as cultured meat, as microprotein, as insects. And then they were also considering aquatic foods, things like chlorella, spirulina, sugar kelp, and mussels.
I think you need things that have the least amount of processing. So if you're going for foods that are effectively the base of the food chain, then that's the most direct way. So things like mussels being filter feeders, or like plant life, probably aquatic foods. So like the seaweed type things, they have like a double benefit. So one is that they're the bottom of the food chain, so you're not kind of building up layers before you get to access the food. The other thing is that they are actually drawing carbon down from the atmosphere in order to produce the food that we eat. So that would be really like a really good carbon sink as well.
So I'm going to talk about alternative and future crops, which does cover a fair bit more of the sort of biotechnology things that we've mentioned here already. So I'm going to talk more about the crop plants. We're going to sort of discuss where we are now, how we got here, and where we can go next. It'd be really good if just between us all, we can hold up green or red cards, just to get a sense of what you think about these different statements. First one, do we think agriculture is a net carbon sink? That means takes more carbon from the air and fixes it into the land than it lets out from the land and into the air. Again, do we think that crop production, as in vegetables, growing plants, as opposed to meat, is the best use for all farmland? So we have a mix here, but over in Nairobi, you're convinced?
There's just one question. I'll let you guys keep going. The one question that we really would like an answer, maybe after this session, but that's important, is where can we get these future foods? And how can we get going?
Where can we get them? Exactly. So it's really interesting that over the past couple of hours, I think it is by now, we've had both Simona and Martin giving us some views of the future, visions of the future. And as Adrian says, where can we get it? Where can we get the future now? The future faster, please. Now, to help us talk about the idea of turning insights into action, I'm really, really pleased that we have our friend Clive Russell from Extinction Rebellion Art Group, who is with us today and who is going to tell us something about how they are constantly turning insights into action.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you in Manchester and Nairobi. I'm in London. So I'm going to share a little presentation, and this is about the work, the beginning of the work that we did for Extinction Rebellion. Because actually, what starts with a small group actually gets evolved by a bigger group. Extinction Rebellion, why is it called Extinction Rebellion? Well, it started out being called Out of Time. But it's really important, if you're going to campaign about something, that you let the public know what it is you're campaigning about. So we weren't campaigning about the climate. We weren't campaigning about biodiversity loss. We weren't campaigning about chemical pollution in the water. We were campaigning about all of those things. And what we were doing is we were campaigning against our government. So we were in rebellion. We were saying to the government, we have a social contract with you. We pay taxes to you, and you're supposed to protect us, and you're not doing that. And in fact, you need to now stand up and tell the truth, and you need to act on that truth, and you need to start change. And until you do that, we are in open rebellion against you. You know, I'm a designer. I don't still consider myself an activist, but it began in sort of 2017, where I was involved in a campaign called Stop Killing Londoners. And it was a campaign against air pollution. So currently, London actually exceeds the levels of air pollution that are actually allowed. So we're constantly breaking the law in London. And so we blocked roads in London, and we created graphics to help us block those roads. So it's quite important, if you're blocking a road, that you're quite large, because that means you don't get run over.
So you showed us the collaboration between Pakistan and Chile. Are there any other examples that really worked for you that you could share with us that are international collaborations? Because that's what this is, and we're trying to create something together. So we'd love to learn what else you've seen.
Yeah, I think the whole of the Extinction Rebellion project it is an international collaboration in some respects, because the point of making some work in the first place and giving it away was that giving it away process was to allow other people to then use it in their own way. So wherever it is, there's certainly, I think there might even be an Extinction Rebellion in Nairobi. I'm pretty sure there is. I mean, if you go to extinctionrebellion.earth, there is a whole list of local groups on that website, and shows you where all these local groups are. But the collaboration is a weird collaboration, because we're not actually physically necessarily collaborating. We're giving things away and learning from one another. So it's a collaboration at a distance where the work is localized. And so every local group of Extinction Rebellion does its own work and makes its own decisions. So we're kind of connected and disconnected at the same time.
Toka hapo Leo. Na kocha suko na unajua watoto wako majina. Ai baba watoto 18.
I have a few facts that I want to use to frame our discussion today. When we think about the 1990s, how many people lived in Nairobi? Only 2% of the Kenyan population lived in Nairobi. Currently, we are in 2021. Almost 30% of the Kenyan population, they are living in Nairobi, or they are living within urban areas. What about 2050? How many people will live in Nairobi at that time? Statistics show that almost 67% of the Kenyan population will live in Nairobi. So this means a lot of people are migrating from the rural areas to the urban areas. So who are going to farm? Because in Kenya, most people who farm are from the rural areas. So if this population, they are moving to Nairobi to find jobs, where are we going to get our farmers from? And if we do not have farmers, where are we going to get our food from?
So you want to make sure that the top pot doesn't hinder the bottom one from growing and maturing into fullness. So you want to make sure that there's enough distance for the vegetables to be able to grow to fullness without being hindered by the top pot. Yeah.
Stop the pot from slipping.
How do you stop the pot from slipping? Like this bottom one looks like it's...
No, if it leans like this, it's still okay. As long as it doesn't topple over, it's okay. But you can see that with the string, we've tied a knot here. So that... Are they able to see?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so you have this knot, and another thing that you can do to make it more stable, after tying the knot, you can put a bottle top.
Like
yes.
a metal or plastic?
Yes, or just something small, or a coin.
Like
just something,
like a washer, yeah.
Yeah, to make it to make this more stable. But as long as you have a robust knot, you should be good.
And we think we're going to encourage some people in Manchester here to try this out. There's so many questions.
Yeah, we already have a plan, which Helle is going to tell you about.
Oh, okay.
Well, we have a cafe on campus at university. We have 30,000 students, and the cafe
sustainable budget food, and we want to be inspired by your model. So we will be using some of our plants.
And we will be growing some, kind of Mancunian
vegetables, or at least mushrooms, because at the moment we are experimenting with mushrooms, growing out of boxes.
So, we will share our stories with you.
In the past, you make a house for your chicken, you wake up in the morning, you just open the door for them, let them loiter around, whatever they get, they'll eat. But now, you have to have like a schedule, what they eat, when they eat, laying eggs, how they lay their eggs, brooding, how many chickens do you have, the amount of space you have, and how you raise them. It's a big thing. Now you have to have a schedule on how you do your poultry farming.
As a result of what I've learned, I've become much more aware of my water use, so my use of water. And one thing I would really like to do, and take a leaf out of the Kenyan folks' book, is the plant pots being strung up. I'm going to talk to my neighbours regarding stringing up some plant pots.
The banana peel, I throw them in the dustbin, yes. The plastic one, I don't throw. I use it, I recycle it, yes. I just take the plastic, I wash, and then kitu kama salt, sugar.
I really like the homegrown aspect. I think that's something that I want to personally pursue more, like homegrown vegetables, and maybe looking to get in an allotment, and then you can have conversations with your friends and your family and get that started.
Maybe 10, 20 years from now, our kids, our grandkids would think, how could we eat githeri, ugali, matoke, ndoma? They'll see it as a disgust or something that is not meant to be eaten. Change has to begin with us. You introduce your kid to, instead of giving them a bread in the morning, bacon, I don't know what, sausages, give them ndoma, ngwashe, baked potatoes, porridge. The trend will go up, then they'll introduce their kids to that, and their kids and their kids to that.
Yeah, so I've obviously learned about the impact of what I'm eating, how I consume food, and what that effect is on the environment, really. I mean, especially in terms of with cow products, obviously that was a big thing that we picked up on here, especially with say eating dairy, cheeses, obviously beef and things like that. I've made an active choice to reduce my consumption there.
Normally, the smoky comes from the depot, and before it arrives to the depot, the farmers are the ones who take it to the depot. I normally go for the smokies to the depot, and normally the smokies cost a packet around 300 shillings. I come, I prepare them. The process of preparation involves cooking, just preparing them, then I take them to the market, then I sell.
Overall, I feel that I've learnt a lot about the communication between communities. But in the future, if we allow ourselves to deepen that proactive stance of progression, I think you've got some very fascinating features.
kutafuta solutions to questions zimeulizwa. Generation to generation, regeneration being the mission. We're clearly on a mission, keeping track of environmental footprint. Kwa nini niji overstretch kupata fruit and veg na locally niko abundant? Ka future yangu ni somebody else's past. How can I make the future last? Ka future yangu ni somebody else's past. How can I make the future last? Ka future yangu ni somebody else's past. How can I make the future last? Ka future yangu ni somebody else's past. How can I make the future last?